Hey everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto went alone in Konoha's underworld, aka the Dark Gate, movie. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Kyubi-X. Link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. Snow was falling. It truly was beautiful in Konoha when it snowed. Everything seemed to get sprinkled with magic when it snowed. Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto were walking quietly to the bridge where they always met. The silence, it seemed strange, but ever since Sasuke had come back, Naruto had fallen into a state of muteness, and wouldn't talk to anyone. No one could really tell what was wrong, but they could see the sadness in those cerulean blue eyes of his. When they reached the bridge, it was no surprise to find that their teacher wasn't there. 6 years since they had become a team, and still he had never changed his ways, although now they knew why he was always late, because he was a man trapped in a past that he blamed himself for every day. And so they all sat down, Sakura next to Sasuke, and Naruto shuffled away from the group, and sat at the other end of the tiny bridge, his back to his teammates. Sasuke simply looked at the ground while Sakura stared at Naruto's back. She then noticed something even stranger with him. He wasn't wearing his orange jumpsuit. Instead he was wearing a simple black shirt with long black pants, and he was shivering. She boldly stood up, and walked over to him. Sasuke just watched her for a few seconds before looking away. As Sakura walked towards him, thoughts flew through her mind. What happened between these two? All I know is that one day Naruto just left without me, and came back with Sasuke's half-dead body slung over his shoulders, not to mention that he was a bloody mess. What happened out there? What could have possibly caused Naruto to change this much? She walked up to him slowly, and slung her jacket over his shoulders. His body went rigid, but quickly calmed down, as she sat next to him. What's wrong with you, Naruto? Why have you changed so much? You have me so worried, Sakura said, looking into his sad eyes. There are some scars. There are some scars that just don't heal, Sakura, Naruto said in a voice that sounded like that of a completely different person. It was a voice filled with sadness, sorrow, and even a hint of anger. Sakura was about to ask him more questions when their sensei came up, and she felt the weight of her jacket back on her shoulders. Naruto walked past her without a word, and Sakura felt such pity for her teammate. They all walked up to their teacher, and stood quietly. Kakashi looked over all his students, and felt a deep dread for what he was about to put his students, his friends, and his children through. Because that is what these three were to him, his children. Everyone listens, this is very important. You all are about to undergo the toughest, and most sadistic form of training that Konoha has to offer. This training will not make you physically stronger, but it will make you mentally stronger. However, there is a small chance that you could sustain serious injury or death from this exercise. Are you all prepared to undergo this training? Kakashi asked them with a pained look in his eyes. All three of the teens looked at each other before slowly nodding to their teacher. Kakashi sighed, and flashed up behind them. He hit them all on the back of their necks, knocking them out before they could even blink. All around Konoha, all the genin teams, including Shikamaru, underwent the same chain of events that would lead them down into the Dark Gate. Sakura moaned as she worked up, but immediately her ninja instincts kicked in, and she kept her eyes shut. She knew that she was in an unfamiliar place just by the smell. It had the husky scent of mildew and old sweat. She slowly opened her eyes only to find that she was in a very dark room. She got on her hands and knees, and began to feel her way around until she felt a foot. She followed the foot up only to find that the person was chained to the wall. She gasped when her vision cleared a bit, and saw that she found Naruto chained to the wall. She quietly shook him awake, and began to feel around for her ninja gear only to find that it had all been taken. She cursed under her breath, and then gasped when she heard footsteps coming to the door. Suddenly, light flooded the room, as the door was kicked open, which awoke everyone else with a start. They all looked up, and gasped when they saw Marino Ibiki standing in the doorway. He looked over all of the nervous faces with a strange look in his eye. Listen up, the following is not only a training exercise, but it is also an evaluation in your endurance to torture. Your senseis say that they are sorry for knocking you all out, but we cannot reveal this location to anyone but our special ops torture team, Marino said calmly, watching the fear of torture flood over everyone's faces except for the blonde boy chained up to the wall. He just had a simple frown on his face. Aren't you the loudmouth from the exam? Well, don't worry my friend, you're first, and let me tell you now, we will not hold back from torturing you, but we will try our hardest not to leave scars on your pretty little bodies. And you should feel special, blonde, you get me, as your personal torturer, Marino said to Naruto while taking him down from the chains. Everyone watched in utter fear, as Naruto stepped out of the room with Marino without making a sound. Still, none of them could understand what had caused the change in their friend, but they were soon to find out. As soon as Naruto and Marino had left the room, a group of other ninjas came into the room and forcefully rounded them all up. Knowing that they were outnumbered and outskilled, the Chunin simply followed the orders of the other ninjas and were led into a room that had a large mirror in it. After everyone had sat down, they were all shocked to see that the mirror was actually a two-way mirror showing them what appeared to be a torture room. The next thing they saw was Naruto being led into the room by Marino and chained up to the wall. After he was finished, he simply left the room and entered the room that the group was in carrying a box. Everyone listen up. This is how the exercise is going to work. You will each receive a scroll with one word on it. This is your safety word. If at any point in time the torture becomes too much for you, scream out the safety word. This will symbolize the fact that you were broken and gave up information to the enemy. We do not expect any of you to complete this exercise without breaking, because that isn't the point. This exercise has a twofold lesson. 1. This will give you a small taste of what it's like to be caught behind enemy lines and tortured for information, and second, it will give us a general idea of how long you can last under the pressure of torture. I know that you are all scared, but I want to remind you that this is something that could happen to you as a ninja. So if you wish to continue your role as ninja, then you will complete this exercise, or you will give up your headband in disgrace. One other thing that you need to know, part of the exercise is learning not to break down if you see one of your friends being tortured. So it will be required for you to watch each and every person get tortured to help you with watching. We have decided that if someone stops watching, then we will make the torture for the person currently being tortured even worse. So if you care about your teammates, then I suggest that you don't look away, no matter what Marino said with authority, but also with a hint of sadness in his voice. For truth be told, he hated doing this exercise to young children like them, but he also knew that it was necessary to keep Konoha safe. The group watched in silent horror as another man went in and showed Naruto his safety word scroll. He then left the room as Marino entered. Without making a sound, Marino walked up to Naruto and cut open his shirt so he could rip it off. The sight that they saw made everyone gasp, and Sasuke flinched. Right around where Naruto's heart was, there was a jagged scar that ran right across his chest in a vertical cut. Everyone continued to stare at Naruto so he wouldn't be hurt worse, but Sakura spoke the question that was on everyone's minds. Did you do that to Naruto when he brought you back, Sasuke? There was a horrible silence in the room until Sasuke gently cleared his throat and muttered out an ashamed, "Yes, I did," with the Chidori. The silence that entailed could only be described as quiet as the grave. You tried to kill your own teammate? What kind of monster are you? Kiba asked, shaking from rage and fear of the thought of torture. Sasuke kept his eyes locked on Naruto, but bowed his head slightly and began to tell them the story of the second rescue attempt's battle at the Valley of the End. We met up again at the Valley of the End. What a fitting thing for the two of us. I decided that this battle I was not going to pull any punches. I instantly activated the level 3 curse seal that I had, and fell into the darkness. I can still remember though, that damned red chakra of the Kyubi swallowing him up, and making him look like an actual demon. I charged at him, and started up with a volley of kicks and punches that he easily dodged. We went back and forth like this for a while, either one of us really landing a solid hit. That was until Naruto pulled a strange style of I had never seen before. I went to swing a punch at his jaw, but he bent his back down as far as he could, then used some chakra to spring himself back up. He hit me straight in my jaw with both palms, and sent me flying straight up into the air. He leaped up and began to bombard me with insanely strong punches and kicks. He ended this attack with a flip kick straight in my face. I flew down, but did a flip, and put some chakra into my feet so that I wouldn't break my ankles. He came down a few feet away, and I started up my Chidori. Naruto told me that this was the end, and began to spin his in his hands. He threw the one up into the air, and formed another one. When this one came back down, he pulled the two together to form a giant. I charged my Chidori up with as much chakra as I could muster, and ran out to him screaming out a battle cry. He rushed me too, and I knew that this was the moment of truth. But then, there it was. Naruto hesitated for only an instant, and I took advantage of his hesitation. I slammed my hand through his heart, and I knew that it was over. I remember feeling his blood spray over my body, as a look of pure shock hit his eyes. Slowly, he faded away, as his eyes started to haze over. I pulled my arm out, and watched his body fall to the ground. I slowly started to walk away, until I felt the impossible. I felt his chakra explode back into life. I spun around on my heel, and saw him standing there surrounded by red and black flames holding a scroll. He didn't even say a word, as he opened up the scroll, and cut his wrists with a kunai. I watched, as the blood sprayed all over the scroll from his wrists, and heart until the wounds closed up due to the Kyubi's chakra. Then, I heard the voice of Naruto scream out, summoning no jutsu. Amida Nyorai. Amida Nyorai is the Japanese god of paradise whom they turn to in their moment of death. Suddenly, the spirit of Amida Nyorai entered into Naruto, and he began to glow with golden fire. The last thing I remember is his fist hitting my face, and then everything blacked out. When I woke up, I was in Konoha's hospital, and Naruto hasn't been the same since. Everyone in the room was in utter shock at the words Sasuke had spoken. Sakura and Ino had tears in their eyes, and muttered that they hated him, while the other just had looks of disgust on their faces, not daring to turn their eyes away from their friend. And then it began. Marino took out some of his tools, and said, "Alright, let's begin." Silence. Normally it would be a peaceful and tranquil thing, but to the 8 teens watching what was going on in the room before them, the subliminal silence entailed a sight of pure horror. Over and over Marino hit Naruto's chest with an iron rod, leaving small gashes that bled, and over Naruto didn't even make a sound. In fact, you had to look very closely to see the small wince that took over his face with every hit. "All I want is the word, boy. Give it to me, and all this pain can stop right here right now. Give it to me now, or I will be forced to step this torture up," Marino said in a very soothing voice to the already suffering teen before his eyes. Naruto scowled at the man, and spit on his boots in a sign of pure defiance. Marino slapped the boy hard across the mouth, causing a slight bit of blood to drip out of his mouth. "We shall see how defiant you are after level 2, stupid boy," Marino said with a scowl, as he grabbed Naruto's hand on his own, and held it tight. "We are going to play the classic game of 10 questions, boy. I will ask you a question. If you don't answer, or lie to me, then I will break your fingers, one by one. Question 1. What is your safe word, Naruto?" Marino said, keeping his sad eyes hidden from the boy. Naruto just simply kept his mouth shut, and bit down on his lip, as Marino snapped his left index finger. "You are being very stubborn, and taking on a lot of unnecessary pain, young one." Question number 2. What is your safe word, Naruto? The same series of events happened over and over again, until Marino had broken all 10 of Naruto's fingers. "You are a fool, but I will admit that you are strong, but you will break, so why not just give up now, and save yourself a lot of pain by giving me that safety word?" Marino asked, while Naruto answered simply by spitting up some blood on his boots, which in turn got him another slap across his mouth. "It's time for level 3, Naruto. Let's just see how much of a man you really are," Marino said while pulling out a piece of metal from a small lantern. The tip was glowing red hot. Marino waved it in front of his face, letting him feel just how hot it was without touching his skin. "This is your only chance, Naruto. Tell me your safety word or you leave me with no choice." Marino continued to speak in a soft voice, trying to break the boy's spirit down. Naruto once again answered with silence, and was stabbed right above his scar with the red-hot metal. A gasp escaped Naruto's lips, as he lifted himself up by his horribly shaking arms, as he fought with everything he had to hold back from screaming. When Marino pulled the metal away from Naruto's body, it slumped down. Naruto was shaking all over, and was covered in sweat and blood. Marino examined Naruto, and decided that he was still fine for torture. He then told Naruto that level 4 would begin as soon as he gathered up the necessary tools for the job. He then walked out of the room, and was gone for 5 minutes before a woman stepped into the room. The group of 8 in the other room had a look of complete terror in their eyes. All the girls were crying, and even the boys were tearing up for their comrade. They watched as the women walked up to Naruto and struck up conversation. "Hey, normally I wouldn't do this, but I'll strike a deal with you, kid. Give me a hint as to what your safety word is, and I'll give you a shot of painkillers. What do you say, kid?" she asked him while holding up the needle, squirting some of the liquid out just to add to the effect. Once again Naruto simply answered a question by spitting on the person's boots. The women scowled and walked out of the room. Not even 2 minutes after she had left did Marino come back into the room. "Congratulations on passing level 4, Naruto. You have done well. Only 3 more levels to go. Can you do it, Naruto?" "I very seriously doubt it," Marino said while pulling back a sheet revealing a needle with a strange orange liquid in it. "This, dear friend, is known simply as foxfire. It is a serum that will make your entire body feel like it has burst into flames. Just for kicks, I will give you a small taste of what is to come." With that, Marino stuck the needle into Naruto's arm, and injected a small amount. Naruto's entire body arched up, and he bit his lip so hard he burst it open to keep from showing the pain. He gasped as the feeling left, and began to suck it in deep breaths. "Now, Naruto, if you don't give me that damned word, then I am going to have to inject this whole serum into you, and I don't want to have to do that. So why don't we just call it a day, and have you give me that word, huh, bud?" Marino asked softly to the shaking boy. Naruto bit his lip, and shook his head miserably, as another act of pure defiance. Marino signed, and inserted the needle into the boy's chest, and drained the entire liquid into his system. This was too much, even for Naruto to handle. He arched his back, and let out a scream that pierced the night all over Konoha. Naruto groaned, and whimpered until the serum wore off, and yet still he refused to tell the man the safety word. Marino gave Naruto's body another check over, and saw that still, somehow, he was fit for more torture. He guessed that it was the Kyubi trying to heal the wounds, as quickly as possible, but there were just too many to heal, and it seemed that the Kyubi was getting tired. Every single one of the 8 kids in the other room were sobbing at the pure amount of pain that Naruto was undergoing, and most of them were begging him to give in, and give him the word. "Okay Naruto, welcome to level 6, this is Naruto, the final chance," Marino said. After that he spoke into an intercom, and had all 8 of his teammates line up in front of them. "Take a look at Naruto, and remember all the pain that you went through, and imagine every single one of them having to go through the same pain. Now it is time for you to make a choice. You can both condemn your friends, and not give up the password, forcing them to all undergo the torture. Or you have 2 separate options. One is to give up the password, and free yourself, but still condemn them, or you can choose to take level 7. This will save them from any torture, but I must warn you, there is only one person who has survived all 7 levels of our practice torture, and lived. What is your choice?" Everyone yelled at him to give up the password, and save himself, and to not worry about them until Marino screamed at them to be quiet because Naruto was about to make his decision. "I choose," Naruto began, as he looked upon all of his friends who had a look of fear in their eyes to him. He knew exactly what he had to do, not just as a ninja, not just as a man, but as a friend. "Now you shall all see the true meaning of loyalty. I choose to take on the 7th level," Naruto cried out defiantly. Everyone in the room had a shocked look on their face. They all remembered the times that they had treated Naruto like he was a piece of trash, and now he was risking his life just to save them from pain? There was one ninja who would not allow such a thing to happen. Sasuke stepped forward, and said, "Naruto, now I will show you just how much you changed my life. May this be my declaration that I truly have turned away from the path of evil because of what you have done for me." Marino used me as a replacement for the 7th level. Everyone looked over at Sasuke with tears in their eyes. Even though they once thought he was nothing more than a scumbag, they could see the truth, and sorrow in his eyes for all he had done. Marino looked at the raven-haired boy, and scoffed before saying, "All 8 of you need to leave the room, and wait outside. I would not wish for anyone to have to see the 7th level. And as for you Sasuke, it's not going to happen. You should just feel pride in the fact that even after everything you two have been through, Naruto is still willing to put his life on the line for you." And with those words, several ANBU stormed the room, and pulled the struggling teens out, and into the waiting area where they were locked in by a high-level ceiling. All 8 of the teens immediately ran up to the wall, and placed their ear upon it trying to hear what was going on in the other room. There was silence for about 15 minutes before the most horrible and primal scream erupted from the room over and over again. Everyone fell back in shock, and covered their mouths with their hands, as the screams continued to flow out of Naruto's mouth. And they were all thinking the same thing. If Naruto only screamed once during the first 6 levels, what in the name of Kami could be so painful as to make him scream like this? After about 30 minutes of waiting, Marino opened the door, and was covered in blood. He looked at the horrified teens, and simply told them that Naruto was at the hospital. As they spoke, suddenly, the ANBU came back in, and covered up their eyes with blindfolds, as they were led out of the terrifying maze of Konoha's underground. When the blindfolds had been taken off, they could see that they were in front of the hospital, and they all ran inside. They all ran up to the front desk, and desperately asked which room Naruto was in. The nurse looked at them sadly, and told them that Naruto was in the ICU with Tsunade, and that they would have to stay in the waiting room until it was all over. They all sat down in a huddle, and held each other, as they cried. Normally you wouldn't see some of these ninjas crying, but today wasn't a normal day, and they all had their tears to shed for Naruto. About an hour later Tsunade came walking into the waiting room covered, and I mean covered in blood, and she had a look of shock on her face. They all ran up to her, and looked into her eyes with their tear-filled ones, waiting for the worst. She looked down at them, and tears began to fall, as she turned her head away from them. They all gasped, and collapsed, unable to take it anymore. They all began to shake, and sob in the most horrible of ways. It couldn't be, he just couldn't be dead. It just wasn't possible, was it? After about another hour of them all crying, Tsunade finally built up the courage to speak to them. "Naruto, right now he's in a coma. He lost so much blood. I don't expect him to live much longer today without a blood transplant. And no one will lend blood for him because they still believe that he is the demon fox." Everyone gasped, as rage exploded in their eyes. They had known for quite a while now that Naruto had the fox inside of him, but not once did they view him as that horrible creature that attacked their village all those years ago. Immediately, Choji Ino and Kiba stood up and held out their arms to Tsunade, saying together, "For our beloved friend, whom we will not let die, take as much as you need." Tsunade gathered all three of the teens into a hug, and blessed them for caring about Naruto so much. So Choji Ino and Kiba gave up as much blood as they could, and the transfusion began immediately for Naruto. However, time would only tell for the 8 teens, for it would be almost 4 days until anything happened with Naruto, and exactly what happens is going to rock everyone to their cores. To say that all 8 of the teens trying to continue their day-to-day lives were on edge was the understatement of the year. None of them could even concentrate on practice or even simple missions. All the senseis decided that there was no point in doing anything until Naruto had gotten better, so they were all dismissed from duties until further notice. Ever since Naruto's actions, the group of 8 had decided that they needed to get to know each other better, so they began to have weekly meetings together at a certain little ramen restaurant. Then the news came to them shortly after their meeting was over. Naruto was awake, and the Hokage demanded an immediate meeting in his room. All 8 teens rushed to the hospital, and up to Naruto's room, as fast as they could. They rushed into the room, and looked at a tired-looking Tsunade who was gently stroking a pale-skinned Naruto's hair. He looked up at all of them, and gave them a pained smile that shook them to the core. Never had they seen Naruto in this state. Just what exactly had they done to him? Tsunade stood, and ordered them all to gather around Naruto's bed. They all complied, and she got their attention by clearing her throat. "I need you all to pay attention because there is someone who needs to explain a few things to you, and offer you all the chance of a lifetime, so I suggest that you all listen up." "Go ahead, Marino," Tsunade said tiredly, as she plopped down into a chair, revealing Marino, who had been standing in the corner the whole time. They all tensed up seeing the man that did those horrible things to their friend. He simply raised a hand, and began to speak. "Before anyone does anything hasty, I am going to take the time to tell you a few important things, and offer you all positions in this village that have never been offered, and have been debated over by this village's elders for quite a long time." He looked around the room, and saw everyone relax. He then looked over at Naruto, only to find to no surprise that he had fallen asleep again. Marino cleared his throat before he spoke again. "Now, before I tell you what the 7th level of torture was, I want to explain the real reason behind this exercise. It was created only to seek out a suitable leader. But who would have thought it would have been that loudmouth, huh? But he did it. He made it through all 7 of the levels, something only done by one other man in our history. However, that is not important right now, for now I will explain the 7th level to you all, as best as I can. The 7th level is actually named the Chains of Fate. No, it really is dangerous because it works by wrapping the victim in barbed chains that drain the victim of not only chakra, but also of soul power too. Basically, if your soul power runs out, then it is game over. And this was created to suck the soul energy and chakra completely out of the victim. However, it seems your friend is quite a special case. He managed to survive, but the damage done ravaged his body, and he is going to have to be in rehabilitation for quite a long time. The Kyubi has also been drained, and therefore will not be able to help Naruto heal until he himself heals. This is where the offer for a new position comes into play. If you would all be willing to move under the same roof, and take care of Naruto until he gets better, then I wish to offer you all, Naruto included, to become a new branch off of Konoha's underground nins. We would of course make Naruto the leader, but you would all play a key role in becoming Konoha's very first rogue ops team. So what do you say?" An eerie silence filled the room, as the 8 teens mulled over everything that they had just been told, including that evil that had put Naruto in such a weak state. Suddenly, Sasuke broke the silence by asking, "Why put us all under the same roof at one time? Why not just switch off week by week? Wouldn't that be easier?" Marino smiled at the question, and answered it very simply. "The point of this mission is to create a central team unity. You will all be pushed to your limits taking care of Naruto, and you are going to have to learn how to work together. This would also be a great time to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, and learn which roles you could play in a Rouge Ops position. Maybe you can even learn how to get along with each other." All the teens looked at each other, and then all looked at Tsunade and Marino, and said together, "We not only accept the mission of taking care of our fallen teammate until he gets better, but we also accept the offer of becoming the first ever Rouge Ops team to serve and protect Konoha." Tsunade and Marino smiled, and told the teens that they would finalize all the paperwork tomorrow, and that for now they should spend some alone time with Naruto one by one. With that, Tsunade and Marino teleported to her office to discuss the plans for a home, and to make up the paperwork for the Rouge Ops team. All the teens looked at each other, and then decided on the following order for visitation. 1. Sakura. 2. Sasuke. with an armed ANBU guard due to his still standing probation around Naruto. 3. Shikamaru. 4. Choji. 5. Ino. 6. Hinata. 7. Kiba. 8. Shino. After the order had been finalized, everyone with the exception of Sakura left the room to give her the privacy she deserved to have with her teammate. As soon as they closed the door, she ran to Naruto's bed and collapsed at his side crying, and holding onto his hand, whispering out how sorry she was for all the times she had treated him like trash. She began to reminisce about all the memories she had with Naruto, and realized that he had never once given up on her even though she spent all her time and energy on Sasuke. She decided after the confession about what happened that second time at the Valley of the End that she would never feel the same about Sasuke again even if he had changed. She now knew without a doubt that she could never fall in love with him again after all he had done. When Sasuke entered the room with the ANBU guard, they were both surprised to see Sakura asleep, half her body on Naruto's while holding his hand. Sasuke called in Shikamaru, and he carried Sakura back out into the waiting room muttering something about how troublesome emotional girls were. After Shikamaru left, Sasuke walked over to Naruto's side, and the ANBU took a place in the corner, never taking his eyes off the raven-haired boy. "Stupid Baka, what did you have to go and do something that foolish for, huh? Still trying to play the hero, aren't you?" Sasuke said with a sad look in his eyes, as he looked over his teammate's sleeping form. "I know that we never had a good relationship, and our fights showed it, but you changed me, Baka. Now you are my only family. I only hope that you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday." Sasuke said these words, letting his mask of toughness slip slightly before putting back on his cold and calculating look, and walked out with the ANBU in tow. Shikamaru stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. He stood there for a few minutes with his eyes closed, taking in deep breaths, trying to get the images of his friend being tortured without mercy out of his head. He finally got a grip on himself and walked over to the bed and brought a chair forward so he could sit next to his friend. "How troublesome of you to make us do all this work of taking care of you because you were too thick-skilled to just give up when you should have," Shikamaru said, as tears fell from his eyes in admiration of his newfound leader. Shikamaru spent the rest of the time just looking at the sleeping form of his friend in silence before Choji entered the room and swapped places with Shikamaru. Now it was true that Choji didn't know Naruto as well as Shikamaru did, but Choji still considered Naruto to be one of his very best friends, not to mention one of the few people that could out-eat him when it came to ramen. Choji just sat in semi-silence as he munched on his chips and thought about all the memories Naruto had given him. "No worries, Naruto, we will all help you to get better in no time," Choji said, and stood up just as Ino stepped into the room. Choji walked out, and Ino walked by him with teary eyes. Choji shut the door behind him, and Ino slowly walked up to Naruto's bed. She sank down into the chair, and the tears began to fall again, as she pictured Sasuke's hand piercing his chest. She sank her head into his stomach gently, and began to sob for Naruto, who was willing to sacrifice his life even for someone like her who always just acted like he wasn't there when Sasuke was around. She also remembered that the only time she spoke to Naruto was when she wanted to yell at him for something. She kept getting out in between her sobs, "I'm so sorry, Naruto," over and over again. All too soon, her time was up, and Hinata entered the room. A teary Ino walked up and gave Hinata a hug before leaving and closing the door behind her. Hinata began to cry even before she could make it to Naruto's bed. She tried to figure out in her mind why he tried so hard all the time even when it put his life on the line. She began to wonder if it was Kyubi and Naruto trying to prove to everyone else that he wasn't the demon, or what. But there was one thing that she didn't know. She had to see just what this horrible thing had done to his body. And there she was at the side of his bed. Very slowly and carefully she grabbed the sheets and pulled them back. She had to stifle back a scream at the sight she saw. Naruto's body was covered in cuts and gashes, and the seal that held back the Kyubi was glowing black and red, and seemed to be in a state of chaos. Hinata held back the urge to faint, and activated her bloodline limit, and saw that the separate chakra system of the Kyubi had all but shut down. She also saw that the Kyubi was in worse shape than Naruto due to the soul power draining, which was a main source of the great demon's power. She suddenly understood why the Kyubi wasn't healing Naruto's wounds. It was because the stress that the Kyubi underwent to try and keep constantly healing the boy put the Kyubi into a deep state of sleep until it was fully recharged. All of this was too much for Hinata, and she just barely managed to pull the covers back over Naruto before she collapsed to the floor and fainted. It was a few minutes after this that Kiba entered the room and gasped at the image of Hinata on the floor. He ran to her and checked her vital signs before realizing that she had simply passed out. He picked her up and carried her back out into the waiting room. After that he walked back into Naruto's room. "Hey fool, you sure are much stronger than I gave you credit for. I hope you can hear me, Naruto. I know you aren't one to give up, so don't you dare even think about it or I'll pound your stupid head in, okay? Kiba said, holding back his tears and putting on a tough act. He gently patted Naruto's shoulder and stood to his feet and walked out because he didn't have much else to say. Shino was the last one to enter the room. He passed Kiba without speaking and went straight to Naruto's bed and sat down. Kiba shut the door behind him, and Shino looked to the door for a few moments before turning back and staring at the blonde-haired boy who saved them all from torture. True to his nature, he didn't say anything, and just sat there, and mulled over his thoughts of his future leader. Everyone in the living room wondered what was taking Shino so long. He had been in the room longer than anyone else, and they were starting to get worried. Not but a few minutes after they thought about it, Shino stepped out of the room with his hands in his pockets, and simply said, "He's awake, someone go get Tsunade." Peace. It was one of those things that were hard for Tsunade to find, especially now that she was in charge of a village. However, she had finally found tranquility in taking Tun-Tun for walks through the village's marketplace. Even though it was busy, people made room, and gave her friendly smiles which helped ease the burden she carried. She looked down at Tun-Tun, and smiled, as she watched the little pig sniff around on the ground, and snored happily when it found small pieces of food on the ground. She then remembered that even though she was taking it easy for a while, that she still had one thing she needed to do before she headed back to her office. Tsunade gently pulled on Tun-Tun's leash, and they began to walk towards the section of the village where all the large homes were located. Meanwhile, back at the Hokage Manor, "What do you mean Tsunade-sama isn't here?" a frazzled Sakura asked, looking at the two ANBU set up as the front door guards. The two guards gave each other a sideways glance before turning back to the girl and speaking. "We are sorry, Miss Sakura, but Tsunade-sama has taken Tun-Tun for a walk and won't be back for some time. Would you like to leave a message for us to deliver to her?" Sakura bit on her bottom lip from annoyance, and then spoke out. "I'm going to go look for her. If she comes back before I have found her, then tell her that her brother is awake. That's all she needs to know." With that, Sakura leaped onto the rooftops, and began to sprint across them in search of Tsunade, leaving behind two bewildered ANBU guards. Back with Tsunade, the realtor glared at Tsunade interestingly while mulling over the offer she just proposed. "Why do you want this home again, Hokage-sama?" A vein bulged on Tsunade's forehead, as she tried to remain calm. "I told you, we are trying something new, and putting 9 under the same roof to try and build teamwork." She held out the bag of money to the man once again. The realtor mulled it over for a few moments before snatching the bag, and reminding her that it was now her responsibility to take care of the home she just bought. Tsunade smiled, as he took the key, and began to head back to her manor with Tun-Tun when a blur of pink racing across the rooftops coming towards her caught her attention. She took a slight step back, as Sakura appeared before her. Sakura didn't even have to say a word because Tsunade knew that Naruto was awake by the look in her eye, and she immediately picked up Tun-Tun, and began to race towards the hospital. Sakura scowled at her sensei, and rushed to keep up with the mad flying woman. Tsunade burst through the hospital like the whirlwind of power that she was, and made it to Naruto's room without even being stopped once. She opened the door, and found everyone inside asking a helpless-looking Naruto a million questions at once. "Everyone get out of this hospital room now," Tsunade roared, making all the teens flinch. All the teens quickly shut their mouths, and walked out of the room, not daring to argue with the very angry lady before them. When they had all walked out, Tsunade shut the door, and looked to her brother with suddenly soft eyes. For the first time since he had awoken, Naruto tried to lift himself up, and cried out in surprise and pain, as he fell back onto the bed with a heavy thud. He clenched his fists, and began to grit his teeth from the horrible pain that was coursing through his body. Tsunade gasped, and was at his side, kneeling in an instant, stroking his wild sun-kissed hair. Naruto looked at her with panicked blue eyes, and Tsunade took a deep breath, trying to find all the carefully placed words to her brother. "Naruto, first of all I want to say that I am sorry for everything you had to go through. I never thought anyone would ever make it to the 7th level since that one man did so many years ago. I have a few things to explain to you, Naruto. Although I don't know very much about the entire situation, I can tell you that the torture somehow affected the Kyubi, and now he has stopped healing you. To get down to the root of the problem, I suggest that you talk to the Kyubi himself to get down to the bottom of the situation. Second, until you have become healed, you and the rest of the Rookie 9 will be moving into the same mansion with you to help you heal. The reason for this is because we wish to start up a new special Konoha ninja team. We wish to start a rogue ops team, and we want you to be the leader after you get better and get some proper training. Do you accept this offer, Naruto-kun?" Naruto stared at her, slightly shocked, and thought about it for a few seconds before saying, "Let me have a little chat with Kyubi, and then I will give you your answer." Tsunade looked slightly surprised, but then simply nodded. Hit me, Naruto said with a very serious look in his eyes. Excuse me? Tsunade asked, clearly confused. I need you to hit me so I can go see the Kyubi. It's the only way I know how. Naruto said it was the simplest thing in the world. Tsunade was too tired to argue the point, so she took her hand and chopped Naruto on his neck, knocking him out instantly. She watched sadly as the teen's eyes closed and he drifted off into a deep slumber. Naruto looked around the images of his mind and soon came upon the cage of the wretched beast, that damned Kyubi. He looked curiously to see the fox curled up in the center sleeping. Naruto scowled and came up with a not so smart but effective idea. Hey, you stupid fox, it's time to wake up. Naruto yelled at the top of his lungs, causing the great demon to jump to its feet, tails flicking to and fro, and hair on end. How dare you interrupt my sleep, insolent human filth? A very angry Kyubi asked, looking down at the boy. Stupid fox, how come you aren't healing me like you usually do? Naruto said without fear, looking up at the giant fox. Kyubi swung his tails to and fro, thinking about an easy way to explain it. Kid, I have decided that your body needs to learn how to heal itself. It seems that since I have been healing all of your wounds, your body doesn't know how to properly heal itself, so I am forcing it to learn by not helping you this time around. Naruto thought about the words the giant fox had said, and grinned, giving a reply of, thank you, before he disappeared back into the real world. Tsunade was about to leave the room when Naruto's voice startled her. My answer is yes, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade whirled around and smiled at her brother, who was giving her a weak grin. Tsunade then called all of the other 8 chunins into the room and gave them each a key. Everyone listens up, the general public has been told that you and all the other rookie teams are trying out a new routine to try and build team spirit under the same roof. The only 3 people that know the real reason that you are staying in the mansion I have set up are I, Jiraiya, and Marino. Your senseis will be informed as well, but do not worry, for it is an S-rank secret. You will all be living in the house until Naruto has fully recovered, and then you will all start training for your new ranks. While you are all living together, I suggest that you train and discover your area of expertise that would impact your new team the best. I am counting on all of you to become the best you can be in order to better serve Konoha better. All 9 of the teens nodded and agreed just as a nurse came into a room with a wheelchair. I want you all to listen well. Naruto is in a very bad condition, to the point where his whole body is going to have to relearn its basic movements, including walking and such things. Until his body is completely healed, you all are going to have to help him by giving him gradual exercises to build his strength back up. Until that time, you will escort Naruto by wheelchair over to the mansion. I suggest that 1 or 2 of the boys gets Naruto into a bath and cleans him, and that the girls prepare a bed for him to rest on for the rest of the day. Bring him food and such, and I and a few other nurses will be over later with more instructions. With that all said, the nurse bowed and left the room. We are going to have to bathe him, all the boys cried out. Naruto thought about that for a second, and his eyes went as wide as dinner plates. Before Naruto could make an outburst, Tsunade clamped her hand off his mouth and declared that they would have to help him do almost everything but eat. Everyone thought about this for a few moments before watching 2 doctors come into the room and lift Naruto into the wheelchair. Naruto let out a small cry of pain when they picked him up because of the cuts all over his body. All pride was swallowed when they saw the look of brokenness on Naruto's face. All they could see in his eyes was the look of a will on the brink of being destroyed. Sakura walked over and grabbed the handles of the wheelchair, whispering into his ear, "Come on, leader, let's go home." Naruto didn't say a thing. Instead, he closed his eyes, and Sakura nodded at their other 7 teammates. Slowly they walked out of the hospital and followed Tsunade to their new home. When they saw the size of the mansion, everyone raised their eyebrows and gasped, for they were standing in front of the home of the 4th Hokage. This is indeed the house of the 4th, and I must lay down some ground rules. First of all, no one is allowed to go into the basement or attic, and that means nobody. Second of all, this house hasn't been used for a long time, so it needs to be cleaned up. And third, Naruto is to use the master bedroom for reasons I am sure you will find out if you look through the library. Now your mission officially begins. I will stop by once a week on different days at different times to see how you are all doing, and will expect a report for the week thus far. Naruto is to be bathed, massaged, and worked with aerobically every day. If we get to the next stage for Naruto, then I will give you new instructions. Remember the stubbornness of Naruto. He stayed in that wheelchair while moving around until I said otherwise, and I understood. Tsunade asked in yet another tone that dared them to argue. Of course none of them did, and so they entered the house. Little did they know just what exactly they were getting themselves into. The first thought on everyone's mind when they stepped into the house was, holy crap, this house is huge. And huge it was. The main hall was shaped in a circle, and had a staircase to the left and right that curled around and up to the second floor. When they looked up, they saw that the house had 3 floors, and most likely a basement, and an attic. They looked to the left, and saw a set of double doors which lead to a massive library. On the right was another set of double doors that lead to what looked to be a billiards room. Straight ahead of them was a massive set of double doors which opened up to reveal 3 more rooms. The center room was a large kitchen. To the left was a dining room, and to the right was what looked to be a living room. When the entire gang was done showing Naruto, and to be quite frank, themselves around the beautiful first floor, Sasuke picked up a complaining Naruto, and they all walked up the steps to the second floor. Kiba brought the wheelchair up, and when they had reached the top, Sasuke set him down quite forcefully. Sasuke glared at the pouty Naruto, and after a moment they began to look around the second floor. The second floor simply stretched from left to right in a straight line with yet another set of giant double doors in the middle. They opened up to reveal the steps to the third floor. They decided to look around the rooms, which they counted to be 10 in all, 5 on each side excluding the doors to the steps. Upon further inspection it revealed that they all appeared to be bedrooms except for the one on the far right. It was a completely empty room. After they finished checking out the bedrooms they began their trek up the steps with Sasuke carrying Naruto, and Kiba carrying the wheelchair again. When they reached the top they came upon a set of double doors that were made out of pure gold. Shino pushed open the doors, and most of them gasped at the sight before their eyes. This was the master bedroom, and what a bedroom it was. The layout was one of Gothic architecture with many stained glass windows all around the massive room. The room was in the shape of a half circle. To the left and the right were 2 closed doors. Straight in front of them was the giant-sized bed, and beyond the bed was a set of normal windows covered by blinds. Kiba set up the wheelchair, and Sasuke gently set him down. Hinata stood by Naruto's side, and quietly watched him, as his eyes looked around the room with wonder. Ino and Sakura walked past the bed, and went to open the blinds so they could see the view. Shikamaru and Choji went to the room on the left while Shino went to check the door on the right. Shikamaru and Choji's door opened up to reveal a bathroom with a bathtub, shower, hot tub, and a sink. When Shino opened his door, it opened up into the wardrobe of the fourth himself. Shino looked on quietly at all the different outfits that were worn by the hero of their village. Suddenly, one of his bugs alerted him to the presence of a room hidden in the wardrobe. Shino moved into the room, and began to shuffle around before coming upon a black wooden door. Shino reached out slowly, and grasped the handle. Everyone else's POV. Everyone was busy looking around the room when all of a sudden, they heard the horrible sound of electricity flowing freely, and the next thing they knew, Shino came flying out of the room, and his body was twitching slightly from the sudden shock. Everyone looked at his body in horror thinking he was dead, until a small groan escaped the lips of the bug Nin, as he moved his body a bit. Shino's POV. No sooner had I touched the door than did one of my bugs give me a warning that the door was booby-trapped. I watched in horror, as a set of complex seals began to glow on the door before a bolt of lighting ripped into my body. When that bolt hit me, everything just seemed to slow down. As I felt my feet leave the ground, I watched slowly, as I began to exit the room. My vision went blurry for a few seconds before reality, and gravity had their way with me. I crashed down to the ground, and found that besides the twitching my body was doing, I couldn't even move. I let out a soft groan, as I felt a small bit of power come back into my body. I tried to move, but the paralysis kicked back in, and my body went straight back onto the ground. Just my luck, and everyone wondered why I was the silent type. POV's over. Everyone ran to Shino, and tried to help him onto his feet, only to succeed in dropping his dead-weighted body. Shikamaru and Choji picked, and carried him back downstairs to one of the bedrooms so he could rest. When everyone got over the shock, they looked over to where Naruto was sitting, and to their horror he was nowhere to be seen. Everyone's thoughts came to a sudden idea, and they all rushed the wardrobe only to watch with horror, as Naruto wheeled his way to the door, wincing with every move he made. Everyone shouted for him not to touch the door, but of course, he didn't listen. He reached out, and touched the handle only to watch the same seals begin to glow on the door that Shino saw. All the girls screamed, as they watched the lighting shoot from the door straight at Naruto. Everyone watched on waiting for Naruto to fly back, but it never came. Slowly Sasuke walked up, and saw that the lighting stopped right in front of Naruto's eyes, and seemed to be moving back and forth between his eyes. A small clicking sound could be heard, as the door swung inwards revealing a small, private library filled with most likely forbidden books, and scrolls belonging to the fourth himself. Naruto was about to wheel himself into the room when he suddenly felt himself being pushed. He looked behind him, and was surprised to see a blushing Hinata pushing him into the room slowly. When she had pushed him to the desk, they both saw that there was a book with his name on it in the center of the room. Hinata bowed quietly, and exited the room, leaving Naruto to his privacy. Hinata gave a small smile to her friends before walking to the windows to do what Sakura and Ino had begun, open the blinds. Ino and Sakura went and helped her, and everyone watched the blocked windows, waiting quietly to see the view that was the fourth out of his bedroom. Just as Shikamaru and Choji walked back into the room, Ino, Sakura, and Hinata opened up the blinds, revealing a sight that made them gasp. Out the window was one of the most beautiful gardens they had ever seen in their life. It looked as though it were filled with every single kind of flower available on the planet. But that wasn't the most amazing part. The most amazing part was that the fourth's property was larger than the Hyuga estate. They all counted 7 more buildings around back, which suddenly brought a few questions to mind. The first, and most important one, was what was in the buildings, and the second one, who were you supposed to get out there? There were no doors that lead to the backyard, and from what they saw, the house was created so that you could neither see around back, nor get around back except for through the house itself. While they all sat there in their own thoughts, a small noise could be heard from the private library. Slowly they all moved to the library, and watched in a mixture of confusion and fear, as they saw Naruto sitting there weeping over the table. They all rushed in around him, and began to ask him a million questions at once, which only made the situation worse. Naruto slowly began to say something, however, due to the noise he didn't hear. It wasn't until Choji saw his lips moving that any action was taken. Choji shouted out for them all to be silent so Naruto could speak. Everyone instantly shut themselves up, and Naruto gathered himself up and spoke. This house belongs to me. Not only that, but this house is my inheritance. The burden I carry every day was placed upon me by my father in hopes that I would be viewed as a hero of the village. Unfortunately, my father's wishes didn't come true, and now here I am, sitting in my father's room. Naruto managed to get out before he broke down into tears again. Everyone gasped when the idea hit their brains. Could it be possible? Was their friend the son of the legendary 4th Hokage? Naruto then showed them the book written to him, and they read word for word the letters the 4th had written to him to read when he had become man enough to own the house. The girls cried in happiness for Naruto, while the guys just stood there in shock over the new news of who Naruto's father was. They all began to remember all the times they called him dead last or idiot, and realized just how wrong they had been. When they all looked back to Naruto, they saw that he was slumped over in his chair fast asleep. They all knew this had been a tough day for Naruto, so they wheeled him out of the room, used his hand to close the door carefully, and took him to his father's bed. They pulled back the sheets, and got him down to his boxers. The ladies looked away at the part, and the guys gently lifted him, and placed him in the bed, feeling themselves getting sick from all the cuts, and all the damage done to his body. They quickly covered him up, and decided to go check on Shino, make a list for who would do what for Naruto, then clean, and finally, go grocery shopping. Pain, what other word could Naruto use to describe it? But it was all so horribly blurry. Only flashes, only terrible flashes of that hideous face. That terrible face sneering at him, that terrible face that showed him he had failed. He looked down, and there was his pain. He watched, mesmerized, as his blood dripped down chest from where the gaping hole in his heart had been filled with the hand of his best friend. He was lung shot, and he could feel it. He tried to give out a desperate plea to his friend not to go, not to break their teammate's heart again. But he was helpless. He groaned, as he felt the arms slide out of his body, and he grunted, as his knees hit the ground beneath him. Tears fell down his face, as he watched his best friend walk away. Then a horrible flash, and there he was, chained to a wall being tortured by Marino, but he could barely feel it. Then on the 7th level, he screamed, as his flesh was torn apart, and the very soul he contained was nearly drained from his body. Then finally, his village on fire, and him standing before its gates covered in blood, the blood of his friends. Naruto woke up with a shuddered gasp, and felt the terrible feeling that came with a cold sweat. He tried to curl up in a ball, but only groaned, as a pain shot through his body, and so he lay there shaking until he heard the door open, and saw Ino standing in the door frame with wide eyes. Ino's POV. I decided that I needed to go and check on Naruto. He had been out for quite a while, and it was almost time for breakfast. I opened the door, and all I could do was stare at Naruto with shock. He looked torn up, and I mean really torn up. His eyes were blood red, and his shirt was covered in sweat, and the shaking. His body was shaking so hard I thought he was going to fall apart. The next few moments went by in a blur. Before I knew I had moved, I was sitting on Naruto's bed, and I had removed his covers. I lifted his body gently, and held it to my own. He was muttering incoherent words, as I began to rock him gently, and whisper comforting words to him. I felt his body stop shaking, and I took in a breath I hadn't realized I had been holding. I looked at him, and gently asked the most obvious question, Naruto-kun, what did you dream about? Normal POV. I dreamed about the day I died at the hands of my best friend, then I dreamed about the torture, and then Naruto began, but couldn't get out without breaking down, and sobbing into Ino's chest. Ino blushed at the fact that Naruto's face was against her chest, but she gave a sad frown at the broken man she was holding. It's okay Naruto, they were only dreams, that stuff isn't going to happen ever again. I promise you I won't ever let those things happen again, Ino said with a soft voice. Then she looked to the doors, and saw their friends walk in one by one, and say, neither will we Naruto. We will never allow you to feel that pain alone ever again. They all chorused at once. Ino looked down at Naruto, and saw him smile with tears of joy in his eyes, as he whispered, thank you. Breakfast went normal until it was over. For it was then that the ladies cleared their throats, which caused the boys to grow silent, and watch them. Boys, give Naruto-kun a bath, and get him dressed, then we will all go out together, and do some shopping, grocery, and otherwise, we have a few plans for our Naruto-kun. All the boys gulped, and Naruto just sat there with a shocked look on his face. Before they knew it, the boys had stripped Naruto of his clothes, and had gently placed him in the tub. The boys then gave Naruto shampoo, and soap, and turned away to let Naruto have his peace. Naruto shampooed his hair with no problems, but when he took the soap across his skin, he yelped, as the soap entered into his wounds, and burned. Naruto bit his bottom lip, and finished cleaning himself. The next series of events could have been the model for perfect teamwork. Kiba and Sasuke lifted up Naruto, and Shino immediately wrapped a towel around his stomach, and tied it. Shikamaru dried Naruto's hair with another towel while Shino took yet another towel, and cleaned off his upper and legs. Kiba and Sasuke then placed Naruto in his chair, and decided to let the towel wrapped around him dry him off. Stupid boys, using 3 towels to dry off another boy, he. After he was dry, the boys quickly dressed Naruto, who had been causing quite a fuss about the whole thing. When they were finally done, they brought Naruto down the steps to where the girls were waiting by the front door, giving all the boys faces that said, "What took you boys so long?" All the boys scowled, but Shikamaru spoke for all of them when he muttered, "How troublesome," and with that, the group of 9 went into the village marketplace to do some shopping. And so, off they went to the marketplace. This time, Ino was pushing Naruto in the wheelchair, and was chatting with Naruto in a way that made all Hinata and Sakura send her jealous glares. They slowly made their way into the village. The crowds didn't dare look at Naruto due to the amount of killer intent that was flowing from the boys around him. They now knew why the village hated him, and they were ready to kill anyone who even dared to look at their new leader with disrespect or hate in their eyes. When they entered the marketplace, everyone stopped, and Sakura cleared her throat to get all eyes on her. It worked. Here's the plan, boys. Naruto, and Ino, Hinata, and I are going to take Naruto here clothes shopping with some money Tsunade gave to do so with. You boys are to buy enough groceries to feed us all for 2 weeks. After that you are to take the groceries home, and put them away. After you boys complete that task, you have the rest of the day off. We will be back in enough time to cook dinner, so I suggest that you find somewhere to eat lunch. With that being said, Sakura handed Shikamaru the grocery list, and a separate bag of money. None of the boys complained, and so Sakura took it that they all agreed to the plan, so she nodded at Ino, and the 3 girls left with Naruto towards clothing stores. With the girls and Naruto. Why exactly do I need new clothes? What's wrong with the ones I had? Naruto asked, looking at the girls who looked back at him with disgusted faces. First off, your clothes are old, and it's time to get newer clothes. 2, orange is a hideous color, and we won't have our leader wearing clothes that make him look like a giant target. And finally, don't complain if your good Tsunade has 2 surprises in store for you later. Sakura said, looking at Ino and Hinata, from whom she got nods. And so, the girls and Naruto entered a ninja tailor store, and were met by a very handsome man who wore a fake smile. Hello, what can I do for you fine ladies, and your gentleman friend today? We were hoping to get new clothes for Naruto-kun, Hinata muttered out, and the man nodded, and let his fake smile disappear with a genuine smile on his face. Can you stand on your feet, or are you stuck in the chair, Mr. Naruto? Naruto thought for a moment before asking for a large stick. The man found one, and handed it to Naruto, who tried to lift himself up with it only to fail, and fall back into the chair. The girls helped Naruto, and he slowly got onto his feet, relying heavily on the giant stick. The salesman called for his assistant, who helped Naruto stand up straight. The salesman took Naruto's measurements, then he grabbed Naruto's jaw, and looked straight into his eyes for what seemed like hours. How many outfits do you require? The salesman asked. Ino took the money bag from Sakura, and placed the heavy pouch in his hand. The salesman looked inside, and Ino said, we want as many complete outfits as we can buy. The salesman thought it over for a moment before saying, 11 outfits. Ino began to haggle with the man, and got him to create 13 suits for the money, and so the man shooed them out of the store, and told them to come back in 4 hours to pick up the outfits. The girls were impressed that he could work that fast. Naruto was just glad to be out of the damned wheelchair. And so, ever so slowly, the girls kept a close watch on Naruto, as he struggled to walk with the use of the stick, as they began their trek to meet Tsunade for lunch. In about 10 minutes they arrived at their destination, and found Tsunade sitting at a booth with Jiraiya. Her eyes went wide, as dinner plates when she saw Naruto walking using the stick, and she got up, and walked towards them, fire in her eyes. And just what the hell do you think you are doing trying to get Naruto to walk already? This could be hurting him worse, and you should have known better than to go against the doctor's orders. Tsunade roared at the girls, causing everyone in the restaurant to turn and stare. Jiraiya saved the day by forcing Tsunade to sit next to him in the booth, and everyone else sat across from the two. After a long-winded explanation from all three girls, Naruto Tsunade finally calmed down enough to order food, and they all followed suit. As they ate, Naruto asked Tsunade what the special surprises were. Tsunade smiled, and told him that the first was lunch, and that the second was a big surprise. Naruto scowled, but they all ate happily. When the bill came, Tsunade took it, and handed it to Jiraiya, who paid it, mumbling about how rude it was for a Hokage to make him pay for food. After Tsunade gave Jiraiya a good knock on his head, they all got up, Naruto with much struggle, and followed Tsunade to an old black building in the middle of the shopping center. She entered with Jiraiya while the girls and Naruto looked at each other before shrugging and walking in. When they got inside, they were amazed at the sudden transformation. The old building turned out to be a weapon shop filled with beautiful yet deadly weapons. An old man looked up and smiled brightly upon seeing the Hokage gracing his shop with her presence. "Hello Hokage-sama, what can I do for you today?" the old man said, looking at all of the teens with smiles, except for Naruto, whom he kept his eyes off of. Naruto scowled, but before he could say anything, Tsunade told the shopkeeper that they needed a weapon for Naruto. The old man finally looked over to Naruto with an odd look in his eyes. The old man walked up to Naruto and began to give him a once-over. "Much pain you have been in recently. Ready to sacrifice your life for those you love, and quite stubborn about it. You're loud, and very unpredictable. You are a rare one flowing with power," the old man muttered, continuing to observe every part of Naruto. The old man instructed them to wait where they were, and he disappeared into the back. Everyone was busy looking at the weapons everywhere that they did not notice Naruto began to shake as he gripped onto the stick. Everyone's attention was snapped to him, however, when he let out a small gasp from weariness and pain as he sank down to his knees. They all rushed to his side and helped him into a seat. They all began to grow nervous seeing just how upset Tsunade was getting. The old man burst out of the back triumphantly, carrying a rather large black box under his arm. "You are unpredictable like lightning from the heavens, fierce like a raging fire. Your soul is beautiful like falling snow. You resolve to protect your friends is never-ending like the ocean's water, and your compassion for others is as powerful as the wind. In other words, you are like the elements of the earth, and so it is only fitting that one such as yourself would control them. So the weapons I have chosen for you have no physical form. They can only come from the power that lies deep inside of you." With all that said, the old man opened the box, revealing 5 medium-sized scrolls. Everyone eyed the scrolls, disappointed that Naruto wasn't going to get a cool weapon, but just a bunch of stupid scrolls. Naruto just sat there with a confused look on his face, but Tsunade and Jiraiya looked upon the scrolls with nothing but fear in their eyes. "You told me you were never going to let anyone have those scrolls ever again," Jiraiya said with a trembling voice. "And you told me that there would never be another person like your student Jiraiya, so that makes us both liars, doesn't it?" the old man said, smiling with his eyes. The old man then walked over to Naruto and got down on one knee, bowed his head, and held the box up to Naruto. "Do these belong to my father?" Naruto asked with a dazed look in his eyes. "Yes, Naruto, and Jiraiya, and myself invented them," Tsunade said with an equally trembling voice. "What are you both afraid of?" Naruto said, looking back and forth between the two Sanins, feeling himself getting nervous. "Because Naruto, if you cannot master everything in all 5 of these scrolls, then they will consume you, thus ending your life. Do you accept these scrolls, Naruto?" Jiraiya and Tsunade chorused at once, watching the exhausted-looking Naruto. Naruto reached out and took the box from the old man. The old man stood and stepped back with a smile. "When you get home, and you are ready for sleep, open one scroll. The training will take place in your mind, and if you complete that one, then you will awaken knowing how to control the element of the scroll any way you choose without having to make hand seals." With that, it was all too much to bear. Naruto's eyes fluttered for a second before he dropped the box on the floor and began to fall forward. Everyone gasped as he began to fall out of the seat, but Hinata dived at the last second and caught Naruto in her arms, taking the brunt of the fall for him. She let out a small grunt as she hit the ground, but she continued to hold him close. And so with that, Jiraiya picked up Naruto, Ino picked up the scroll box, Tsunade paid the bill for the scrolls, and Sakura and Hinata followed close behind Jiraiya as they made their trek back to the fourth Naruto's mansion. You're healing way too slowly, Kit, and I have to be honest, it's starting to get on my nerves. Maybe I should give your body a little help to get it in gear, the great Kyubi said, looking at his container from behind his prison cell. Naruto eyed the great demon with careful eyes. How do I know that this isn't a ploy to take over my body? Naruto asked cautiously, not wanting to lose Kyubi's help if his motives were as pure as a demon's could be. You may not be a very smart kid, but you do have good common sense when you choose to use it. I promise you I am not trying to take over your body. I've tried it once, and let me tell you, it hurts like hell. Let's just say that I'm getting bored with you not being able to move around properly because it's putting you out of shape. I still refuse to heal the wounds on your body. However, I have decided to heal your internal wounds so that you can get your energy and almost endless stamina back, Kyubi said, swishing his tails to and fro. You're growing soft in your old age, Kyubi. However, I am not one to turn down this offer. But the question is, what do you want in return? I know that you aren't doing this for free. Naruto replied, still watching the demon carefully. I want you to destroy me, the Kyubi said, watching the boy react with shock. What do you mean you want me to kill you? Naruto asked awestruck. I've grown tired of living on this planet, and this cage sucks beyond anything you could possibly know. I have decided that I want to go down to hell where I truly belong, so that is what I want in exchange for my service. I want you to destroy me by destroying the seal. The answer to how to do so is hidden in your father's private library in one of the black scrolls in the far left corner. If I do this, does it mean you will be gone forever? Will I lose all of your powers? Naruto asked very cautiously. PSH, just because I am going to hell doesn't mean that I won't want a window to what is going on in the human realm. And that is what you are going to be. I'm going to implant a small bit of myself into your mind so that I can see everything you see. Call it my extra entertainment if you will. As for my powers, I will grant you the power of my regeneration if you promise to let your body heal normally this time. Also, upon my departure your eyes will receive a very small what you humans would call bloodline power. As you know, foxes can see in the dark perfectly because that is when they hunt, and that is going to be your eyes' power. You will be able to see in the dark just as well as you do when it is light out. But don't worry, this won't affect your daytime vision. It will only kick in when the sun goes down. And finally, I am going to bestow upon you what I like to call primal instincts. For example, while you are sleeping you will be able to know when someone is trying to sneak up on you, and all 5 of your senses will be slightly increased. Not quite as powerful as mine, but more effective than any humans nonetheless. And don't worry, your body won't change at all. And finally, I have one last gift for you, and let me tell you, this one is the mother of all presents. With his rather long speech done, Kyubi stuck out his tail with a scroll wrapped up at the end of it. Naruto gently took the scroll and opened it up. He read its contents, and his eyes widened as he gasped. This is a summoning scroll for all foxes, including yourself, Naruto said, looking up at the giant fox demon. Yes, it is a kit. Now sign it with your blood and give it back. Then scram. I need to get to work on healing your internal organs, and you need to study on how to send me to hell so I can finally have some fun again, Kyubi said, smiling as best as the giant fox demon could. Just one more question before I go. Have you lost the will to live? I can't exactly understand why you won't go to hell, Naruto asked. Kid, it's like I said, this prison is boring. I need to be free, I need to roam, and if going to hell is the only way to do it, I'll take it. Anyways, I'm sure that at one point you'll have to call upon me to aid you in battle, and that will be a lot of fun, I can promise you that, Kyubi said, hoping it would satisfy the boy so he could get to work. Naruto smiled at the fox softly, and thanked him for everything he was going to receive, and then he bowed, and walked out, leaving a smiling Kyubi behind. When Naruto woke up he smiled, feeling some of his energy coming back to him. He sat up, and stood on his feet while stretching. He winced at the pain caused by all the cuts and gashes on his body, but he smiled knowing it wouldn't last forever. With that he found a note on the nightstand, he picked it up, and read the following. Dear Naruto, you slept the night away, so here's what you missed. We got your outfits, and we cleared a section of your closet to put the clothes in. Anyways, just call out for someone when you wake up, and we will come get you. Tsunade-sama is stopping by today because she said she had one more special surprise for you. So yeah, just call for help when you're awake. Yours truly, Sakura. Naruto read the note twice, and then got a wicked grin on his face, a plan forming in his mind. He went to the closet, and picked out an outfit, and stepped into the bathroom to take a shower. He glanced at the clock before he closed the door, and saw that it read 8 a.m. Meanwhile downstairs, the girls were cooking up a large breakfast, and the boys were helping by setting the table for the 9 of them, plus 3 extra spots for Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kakashi. They had just finished setting the table when they heard a scream, and a plate drop. They rushed to the kitchen to find out what was going on, and if they were to look at the clock they would have seen it was 8:30 a.m. The boys rushed in, and saw the girls looking towards the main hall with shock in their eyes. Their eyes wandered to the main hall, and shock hit their systems at full speed, for they saw what appeared to be Naruto standing there with a grin on his face. They say the konoha headband, however, it was tied to his right arm, which let his blonde hair fall freely, showing just how long it really was, goes down to his eyes. But long gone was the orange jumpsuit which had been thrown away by the girls. In its place was a pair of snow camel pants with a skin-tight black shirt, and a skin-tight black vest on over top. Naruto's sandals were gone, and had been replaced by black hiking boots. There was only a second's hesitation before Naruto was trapped in Shikamaru's shadow, and had 3 kunai positioned at very dangerous spots on his body by Sasuke, Kiba, and Shino, who were careful to keep their bodies away from the shadow. There was dead silence until the supposed Naruto spoke up saying, good morning? Who are you, and what did you do to Naruto? Shikamaru asked with an unusually deadly tone to his normally bored voice. The other boys nodded in agreement, pressing the kunai harder against the vital areas to stress the point that he should start talking now. It's me, and if you want proof, lift up my shirt, and make me release some chakra so that you can see the Kyubi seal, Naruto said with a smile to his face, enjoying every second of the pure chaos that was his friend's reactions to him. Cautiously, Shikamaru lifted up his shirt, which forced Naruto to do the same. He then released some chakra, which also made Naruto do the same, slowly yet surely, and the seal of the Kyubi become visible on his stomach, that along with all the cuts and gashes on his body proved that it was indeed the one, and only Naruto. Shikamaru released them, and stepped back. However, Sasuke, Kiba, and Shino were far less willing to let him go. You've got some explaining to do, Naruto, and you better start now because we're not in the mood for games, Sasuke said with a cold voice. And so Naruto explained the entire situation, along with the agreement with the Kyubi to send him to hell with the window of view in his own mind. Everyone sat down absorbing the information, not bothering to notice that the food was burning while they listened. And so by the time that Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kakashi entered the house, their food was completely burnt, and needless to say, Naruto was forced to retell his story to the adults who, like the teens, were very on edge about the whole situation. And so, after discovering that the food was uneaten, Tsunade led the way towards a restaurant so they could eat. Tsunade made the teens eat alone, while Jiraiya, Kakashi, and she sat at a table with Naruto, who showed them the scroll, and explained how to destroy the Kyubi, and the seal forever. The adults listened, and then Kakashi walked over to the teens' table, left them some money, and told them to enjoy the rest of the day, and that they would be summoned to Tsunade's office when they were finished with Naruto. The teens knew that asking questions would only get them in trouble, so they paid the bill, and left. Kakashi, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Naruto did the same, but went to the Hokage manor to perform the teens decided to go back to the mansion, and clean everything they hadn't gotten a chance to, and also clean up the mess left in the kitchen. In the Hokage's manor, Tsunade's bedroom, they entered the room, and began to do everything the scroll commanded. They took black coal, and drew the kanji symbols necessary, and drew a circle around it, placing Naruto in the center. The itself worked by calling upon the god of death to come. From there the Kyubi would take over Naruto's body momentarily, and reveal his position from where he had been escaping the god's death for far too long. From there, Kyubi would tell the god of death to also remove the seal from Naruto, and then the god of death would do the rest. It took 3 people to perform, so Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kakashi got into the necessary positions, and began the hand seals. The room became cold, as ice, and soon the ghostly image of the god of death became present in the room. Who summoned me here? The god of death roared with anger, as he looked between the 3 adults, and finally upon the boy whose eyes were strangely glowing red. Hello, Death. Long time no see, huh? Let me get down to business. I've gotten tired of hiding from you, so I decided it was time to go to hell. However, I have one last request of you. Remove the seal from the boy so that the village will know that I am truly gone, and then I am yours. Do you accept me offer? Kyubi asked with no fear in his voice. The god of death thought it over, and then agreed. Naruto regained control, and said goodbye to Kyubi, as the god of death slid his hand into Naruto's stomach. Naruto arched his back out, and let out a cry of pain, as the god of death pulled out the Kyubi's soul from his body. With that task done, the god of death removed the seal, and disappeared with the Kyubi straight to hell. When all was said and done, Naruto was lying in a heap on the floor, out cold once again. With their task done, Tsunade checked to make sure that the seal and the Kyubi were gone, and they were. Tsunade let out a sigh of relief, and picked up the boy gently, and placed him upon her bed to sleep. Little did she know that when Naruto woke up, an awakening of power would occur, the likes of which could only be rivaled by the fourth himself. For, as Naruto slept, his eyes received their new power, and would glow the cerulean blue color at night. His senses became more sensitive, and his body grew the ability to regenerate at his will instead of the Kyubi's. And also the mind link between himself and Kyubi had been opened. This all occurred within a matter of hours, and by 1 p.m., Naruto opened his eyes to an unfamiliar room. His ninja intuition went to work. As he quickly went to work with his new senses, he quietly sniffed the air only to smell the scent of Tsunade. He realized he was safe, and opened his eyes once again to see Kakashi leaning against the closed door reading a dirty book. Naruto coughed once, and Kakashi's head immediately rose to see his awakened student. Naruto couldn't exactly tell, but he could have sworn that Kakashi was smiling with his eyes, as he said, "Good afternoon, Naruto. How was your nap?" Naruto replied that it was great, as he sat up, and got out of the bed, stretching for the second time that day. He walked to the window, and looked out only to see the entire village gathered around Tsunade, as she was obviously talking to them. "Ready to go tell the village that the Kyubi is finally dead, Naruto?" Kakashi asked, smiling with his eyes once again at his student. Together, Naruto and Kakashi walked outside, and up on the podium where Tsunade was standing. As is to be expected, the villagers let out boos and hisses that made not only Tsunade mad, but also the 18 standing in the back. Tsunade finally got the crowd settled down by declaring that she had made an important announcement about Kyubi. Everyone instantly stopped talking, and all eyes fell upon Naruto with curiosity in their eyes instead of hate for once. Tsunade gently nudged Naruto, urging him to speak, and Naruto got the hint. "Everyone, I am standing here today as the Kyubi's container to tell you that the Hokage along with 2 other konoha ninja finally sent the Kyubi where he belongs, to hell. And I am going to prove it by showing you that the seal that the 4th Hokage placed upon my stomach has disappeared. And for all of those who know about the seal itself, you know that it could only disappear when the Kyubi was gone." For what seemed like an eternity there was dead silence. Then all of a sudden the crowd broke out into cheers that the great demon was finally dead. As Naruto watched the scene unfold in front of his very eyes, he could swear that he could hear the Kyubi chuckling at how much fear he had caused, which would cause the villagers to celebrate his death. After a while of letting them cheer, Tsunade quieted down the crowd to make an announcement of her own. "Everyone, I know that this is an exciting time, but I have one more announcement to make. I have here an official document of the leaf of birth certificate for Naruto. As it turns out, the 4th Hokage was his father, and, as you know, that means that he is naturally the next in line for the Hokage position. And that is why I need your vote now. Will you accept the 4th son, the boy who carried the burden of the great demon Fox Kyubi, and finally overcame him, as candidate for the 6th Hokage of the village hidden in the leaf?" Once again there was dead silence for what seemed to be yet another eternity. Then slowly, one by one, the villagers began to clap until every member of the village was clapping and cheering for their new hero. Naruto just stood there in shock, now realizing that his dream of having the village recognize him had just come true, and that his dream of becoming Hokage had just taken a giant leap into happening. And so, it was only natural that Naruto would stare at Tsunade, as she offered him what would become the jacket of the 6th Hokage, which was black in color, and had the image of Kyubi on the back with the kanji for victory next to the demon's face. The crowd fell silent, as they watched to see if Naruto would accept the jacket. And then, slowly yet surely, Naruto reached out with shaky hands, and took the jacket. He slowly put it over his shoulders, and turned to look at the crowd with tears in his eyes. Tsunade cleared her throat, and said, "I hereby show you a candidate for the position of the 6th Hokage, Uzumaki Naruto." Tsunade smiled, as the crowd cheered, and celebrated the 2 big events that happened that day. And so the village went out to celebrate, as Naruto was led back inside of the Hokage's manor, the other 8 of the rookie 9 close behind. The end. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.